It drifts in the mist of the North Atlantic, where mountains plunge straight into the sea. Waterfalls tumble from sheer cliffs, sheep outnumber people, and turf-roof cottages guard a quiet from another age. This is the Faroe Islands, a forgotten archipelago at the edge of the world. How much raw beauty and purity could it possibly hold? Come, follow me along the wind-swept paths and discover the secrets hidden in the fog. The Faroe Islands lie in the middle of the North Atlantic between Norway, Iceland, and Scotland, made up of 18 main islands, including Streymoy, Eysturoy, Vagar, Mykines, Kalsoy, Kunoy, Borøy, Viøy, Sandoy, and Suroy. They are a self-governing territory of the Kingdom of Denmark, covering about 1,393 square kilometers with a population of roughly 54,900. As of 2025, the islands are known for their ever-changing oceanic climate. Cool summers, mild winters, strong winds, and frequent rain and fog. The landscapes here are both wild and delicate, a surreal mix of mountains, sea cliffs, waterfalls, and remote villages. The name Faroe comes from Old Norse, meaning sheep islands, a nod to the flocks that have roamed these slopes for centuries. The first settlers were likely Celtic monks in the 6th century, followed by Norse Vikings in the 9th century, who shaped the Faroes' fishing and farming traditions. Since 1380, the islands have been under Danish rule, but since 1948, they have enjoyed extensive self-governance, with their own parliament, language, and cultural heritage. The Faroese economy is still driven by the sea. Fisheries and aquaculture account for more than 90% of exports, with salmon as the top product. In recent years, however, the islands have been diversifying, promoting tourism, finance, shipping, and creative industries. By 2023, the Faroese GDP had reached $3.91 billion, with a per capita income of $70,000, placing the islands among the world's high-income economies. Scattered across this fog-shrouded archipelago are tiny villages and dramatic coastal wonders, faces of the Faroes that feel both timeless and otherworldly. Let's set out across this land of sheep and see the landscapes whispered by wind and waves. Tórshavn, the capital and largest town, with about 23,000 people, sits on the southern tip of Streymoy Island. Colorful wooden houses, turf roofs, and cobbled lanes paint a picture straight out of the Viking Age. Fishing boats and small yachts crowd the harbor, while cafes and pubs hum with Faroese songs and laughter. Walking through Tórshavn, you feel both the calm of the sea breeze and the resilient spirit of this northern town. Sorvagsvatn, the largest and most unique lake in the Faroes, often called the lake above the ocean. Perched on the cliffs of southern Vagar, it sits just above the Atlantic, separated only by a steep drop. From certain angles, it appears to hover high above the sea, creating a mind-bending illusion. A hike along the shore leads to Trilanipa, or Slave Cliff, where you can watch the lake spill dramatically into the ocean below, a stage at the edge of the world. Drangarnir, the most iconic sea stacks of the Faroes, located off the coast of Vagar. Two rock towers rise from the waves, the larger pierced by a natural arch that resembles a giant stone gate. From the cliffs, you can watch waves surge through the arch as seabirds wheel overhead and spray drifts across the rocks, as if this were the North Atlantic's own gatekeeper. Mylafosser Waterfall. On the western coast of Vagar, this waterfall has become the postcard image of the Faroes. It plunges from grassy cliffs straight into the Atlantic, with the tiny village of Gesadler nestled in a valley behind. Once accessible only by footpath, it now connects to the outside world through a tunnel, but it still feels remote, often wrapped in mist and sea wind. Standing on the cliff, watching water fall into the ocean is a photographer's dream. Mykines, the westernmost island, known as the Puffin Paradise. Every summer, thousands of puffins nest here, dotting the cliffs and grassy slopes with flashes of orange beaks and wings. A dramatic trail leads across steep cliffs to the solitary Holma Lighthouse, where seabirds and crashing waves meet in one frame. Often veiled in fog, Mykines is one of the wildest and most untouched corners of the Faroes. Saxon, tucked away in northwestern Streymoy, this tiny village is among the most poetic places in the Faroes. When the tide recedes, the lagoon becomes a wide sandy beach reflecting turf-roofed cottages and mountain ridges. With only a few old farmhouses and a small church, Saxon feels like a Nordic fairy tale frozen in time. Stjornuvik, one of the northernmost villages, facing the fierce Atlantic with a striking black sand beach. Offshore, the sea stacks Ryzen and Kellingen. The giant and the witch stand like sentinels against the waves. With mountains behind and roaring surf ahead, this fishing village is rugged, isolated, and deeply atmospheric. Jogv, meaning gorge in Faroese, Jogv is a cliffside village at the northern tip of Eysturoy. Its natural harbor is a long, narrow sea-filled gorge cutting straight into the coast. Turf-roofed houses scatter along the cliffs, and with only a few dozen residents, it is peaceful and pure. Walking the coastal paths, you'll hear waves pounding rock and seabirds gliding low, as if wandering into a North Atlantic pastoral painting. Klaksvik, on Borøy Island. This is the Faroes' second largest town and the economic hub of the north. Surrounded by mountains and fjords, it thrives on fishing, with trawlers and processing plants lining the harbor. Though small, it has a church, a museum, and even a local brewery. Many ferries and boats to the northern islands, including Kalsoy, depart from here. Kalsoy, nicknamed the Flute of the Faroes for its long, narrow shape. Kalsoy is both dramatic and mysterious. The island star attraction is the Kolur Lighthouse, perched on a cliff edge above the open sea. The hike to it is breathtaking. Narrow ridges, sheer drops, and crashing surf below. The island is also home to the legend of the Seal Woman, adding myth to its ruggedness. More recently, it gained fame as the filming location for the James Bond film No Time to Die, earning it the nickname Bond Island. Vagar, the northernmost settlement of the Faroes, wide open to the Atlantic and surrounded by mountains. It is famous for Inniberg, Europe's highest sea cliff, which rises 754 meters straight from the ocean. From the village church, you can see sheer cliffs on one side and endless sea on the other, with wind and surf echoing year-round. For many travelers, Vagar feels like the end of the world, where raw beauty and solitude reign. In the Faroe Islands, time seems to slow with the wind. Sheep wander lazily across the slopes, while lighthouses keep lonely watch over the endless waves. Whether standing on a cliff listening to the wind or sitting in a turf-roofed village watching clouds drift by, you'll find a rare kind of peace. There are no crowds here, only the freest winds and the quietest seas. And when the fog finally lifts, you'll realize the Faroes have been waiting in your heart all along.